So I watched One Punch Man, I watched Edge Runners, I watched Seven Deadly Sins, I watched a bunch of shows in recent time, and while doing that, I kind of forgot the fact that I started part 2 of part 6 of Jojos Stone Ocean, and it's a show I really wanted to catch up on because I really like Jojos, but part 6 just was really intriguing to me because they had a female lead, and after watching part 1, I felt like part 2 could only go up from there. And before I start this video, there will be spoilers for part 2 of JoJo's Bizarre Adventures part 6. So if you haven't seen it, I would either click off or just stay. You know, you can stay. I'm just giving you that warning in advance. You know what I mean? And this video is going to be specifically on part 2. Once they come out with the rest of part 6, then I'm going to do a full like review of JoJo's part 6. But for now, I'm just going to talk about part 2 of it because I just finished it and I'm surprised, I'm impressed. And there's some things that I kind of don't like either, but I'm just going to get into it. So I mean, we started off I think with the whole Dio backstory with Pucci and whatever. Judging by how the first part was of part 6, I was already really enjoying it. There were some good fights in part 1 and there was some good story build up, but I think part 2 just took that shit to another level because there was the Dio Bone thing that they started going after, right? And Hermes had her whole situation at the beginning of this part, which led to one of, honestly, I want to say definitely a top tier fight in the show, but in terms of just anime that I've watched in general, this fight with Sports Maximum, aka Text Bubble Eyebrows, this shit was fucking good. Like, it was really good because the whole thing with his invisible animals or whatever, like that whole part, that part of the fight, that was good, right? They started the fight, it was solid, I was enjoying it, but when they got to where he was like a ghost and then Hermes was taking him on one-on-one and then she baited him with her little head trick, but then he also baited her because his head wasn't even on his body, he was holding that shit in his hand from miles away, and then she did some sticker shit with his heart and then pulled that shit out and then punched him in the jaw. I mean, that whole thing with her backstory and then that happening and her getting that redemption not only was so satisfying, but it was just so like, like I was like genuinely, I don't remember if I did a reaction to this episode, I really don't, but I was like feeling it, like I was feeling some emotions, I was feeling a little bit of emotion about it, and I was really enjoying that fight, and so that shit already started off strong. And then obviously Hermes is out of commission and we're starting to get more into the Dio Bone thing, and then we meet Anastasia, whatever his name is, a little bit later, a couple episodes down the line. Enemies just start popping up out the wazoo. Jolyne gets put into Max and she's kind of by herself, and then she ends up in a situation where there's this stand that's sending these nervous system signals to everyone, wanting them to fight each other, giving them anger issues and shit. Then this guard is boxing with another guard and he ends up like killing him. he beats him into oblivion, and then he gets some stand ability himself and Jolyne has to fight him one-on-one. And this stand ability is like one of the most broken stands I think I've seen. He's bringing meteors from the fucking cosmos. Like, I just didn't understand. They can't even touch him either. They literally couldn't even touch him. So she was trying to figure, and she was getting like messed up bad. She was getting her arm blown off, her leg blown off, her hit in the head, blah blah blah. And I'm sitting here thinking there's no way that let me rephrase that. I'm not thinking she's not going to win this fight because this is JoJo's, right? Every time the main character is in some sort of predicament like this, they outsmart their enemy in some great way, and that's exactly what happened. She used his boot, and then she still had the meteor hit him, which then led him to set himself on fire. She beat him up, whatever. And then she's faced with these two other enemies, this guy with this stupid pinhead, and then this old guy who shouldn't even be walking. He's like 87 years old, but he's doing some feng shui kung fu type shit like Jackie Chan, and I'm starting to feel intimidated by him. But FF shows up, who happens to be the MVP of this goddamn season. Can we talk about FF? Fucking frightening. I would be scared if I was her enemy. Their enemy. I would be scared if I was Foo Fighters' enemy, because while Foo Fighters is not even that good of a stand compared to all of these other enemies that we're going up against, dudes bringing down meteors, and then one guy having some fate predictor stand, the old guy, FF still manages to put up good fights against everyone, and is really getting jumped this whole season. If you really think about, like, this whole part 2, FF never caught a fucking break. Like, Jolyne didn't catch a break either, don't get me wrong. Like, Jolyne has lost many chunks of skin throughout this whole season, but I mean, second in line to her, FF, oh my goodness, shout out to them, man, because not only did they die in an unfortunate, I was very upset about that, but I'll get to that a little bit later, just going up against these strong ass enemies, and then FF getting put in the electric chair when they literally cannot take electricity because they're plankton and shit, and then almost being reduced to nothing. I'm thinking FF already dead at that point, didn't, but then having this wonderful boxing match with this old guy who also gets shocked, but then he comes back to life and he's trying to pull this shit out, but then the dragon's also telling That I don't even know what's happening. But then they're using like the water reflection. There's just so much going on. The intricacies in these fights, it was so good. People start having trees growing out of them. Like the first Hokage just showed up doing some wood style shit, because then there's like 17 trees now in the place. Jolyne's starting to go through photosynthesis herself, and there's just some weird shit going on because now there's this baby fucking turtle in this little pod at the bottom, and she wants to observe. Why wouldn't she want to observe? He has the goddamn Jojos symbol on his back. They eventually steal the baby, ends up being like some turtle baby alien anamorph type of deal, but it's like Dio's reincarnation because of the bone, like some shit like that. I'm sitting at this point in the series now, and I'm really honestly getting kind of addicted to it. Like I really am liking the fights mainly, right? Not only is the animation crisp, not only is Jolyne looking beautiful as ever, just it's very crispy, the shit I'm watching, and the fluidity of these fights and the thought behind these fights. And that's really where JoJo excels. There's thought behind these fights, and it never ceases to amaze me how specific they get into like the information presented to you in these fights. It's just really good. Do I get annoyed that they keep throwing enemies back to back to back like they do in the last 4 parts? It is annoying if it's done improperly. Like if it's done like how they did it in part 3 with damn near 50 episodes, 1 enemy each episode, and there's not really any story progression to it, that is annoying, right? It was more so like they were going through a dungeon to get to the final boss. In parts like part 5 or part 6, it's like they do these enemies one by one, back to back, but they also include the story elements into it, so then it more so meshes together in a proper way. We're kind of now at a standstill. They have Demon Baby, and they see this stand, this ugly looking, but he's kind of cool looking. Like he's like this little green goblin looking dude who likes throwing it back for whatever reason. And then they have to split up and search for clues. Anastasia and Jolyne are going to go out to the wetlands and do whatever with the baby. FF is going to stay back and hopefully eliminate the user of this new stand. I think it was called like Yo-Yo Mama or Yo Mama. I don't even I don't remember what this stand was called. It was something like that. So Anastasia and Jolyne go out into the wetlands. They're able to hop on a boat, do all of this shit, and I'm just sitting here thinking, where's the guards? Where are the guards? They're sounding the alarm, but it's like you have A-class, S-class threats over here on your prison grounds just wandering about. This prison needs a reformation. There needs to be new staff, new everything. Jolyne and Anastasia are basically able to run free with Yo Mama. If I'm in their position, I'm not trusting this stand. This is clearly a stand. This is clearly an attack. I don't know why they're just letting him roam free. But I mean, if he's going to be helpful, I guess you could be to my benefit, and then I'll just eliminate you when I see fit. But yeah, Yo Mama's pulling off some sneak attack, basically makes Jolyne lose her voice, whatever. Anastasia thinks it's the perfect time to take advantage of the situation since he's in love down bad for Jolyne, like horrendously. It is kind of abysmal. Now granted, I understand where he's coming from. It's definitely within reason, right? If I was in that position, I'm definitely going to attempt to take advantage of the situation too, because I like this girl and hopefully she likes me. And if Jolyne's getting all up in my face like this, I'm going to think she wants to kiss me too. It might not be the place and time, but I mean, why not? She gets that Naruto style uppercut that's probably going to rearrange his chin, but it really doesn't knock the horny out of him. I think it probably just makes him a bit more horny. Like, I think it adds a bit more spice into him. He's like, oh, she's kind of kinky. Like, I like this. And I feel like one thing Anastasia has to understand is that Jolyne, she's a very pick and choose woman. You know, she's like very independent as well. So you can't be all up on her like this. Yeah, I understand what you're trying to do. You're trying to be that man that's saving the day every time, but back off a little bit, you know. And I get the style you're going for, but dude, you cannot be showing Jolyne that you're wearing these tighty whities like this. It may be part of your look, but now think about it like this. If you are trying to show Jolyne the type of man you are, and I love the style. I love the fishnets, the pink hair, the pink lip. That shit is fire, right? He's killing it because he's matching her energy, but you can't be showing off the tighty whities, man. I'm sure she doesn't want to be seeing that. I think she would prefer if you were like butt-ass naked compared to the tidy whities. It just like kind of messes up the look. I don't know. That's how I kind of look at it. But that's unimportant right now. And on the other side of all this, FF has an altercation with Yo Mama's stand user, and Pucci at the same time ends up taking over the original body. So then Yo Mama disappears, obviously. And I'm really liking it. But FF just gets the short end of the stick this whole time. And they're putting up a good fight against Pucci too. Don't even get me wrong. Like, and FF doesn't even have that, or isn't even that good of a stand. But against this Pucci, like, oh my goodness, they're just pulling out these plays left and right. But then Pucci is like also a very smart individual himself, so then he does the shit with the disc, and then to where if FF is trying to get water, that water is boiling hot, so then therefore they're just gonna disintegrate into thin air. You can't deny that's some battle sense, and you got to give him an applause for that. You know, shout out to Pucci. He's a very good villain so far, and I'm really liking him too. I really like what he's doing in the story. All in all, Weather Reporter comes and saves the day. FF goes back to Jolyne and Anastasia on this island with Weather Reporter. Jolene's rubbing up on Weather Reporter like she hasn't seen him in 2 years. If I'm Anastasia, I'm jealous as well. It's understandable. You know, it looks like they're damn near about to fornicate. Like we're getting ready to make love. This hug had meaning. There was some love there. You know, there was some love with this hug. There's embracing because I haven't seen you in a while. But no, Jolyne was like, damn, this is a buff ass man. I like this. I like these back muscles. Like, this is nice. I'm kind of horny. Like, you know, I think that's how she was feeling mentally. So Anastasia is definitely within reason to be upset with that. But lo and behold, Weather Reporter's not even him, and he's Pucci, and they just left Weather Reporter on the island. And we find that out because Pucci gives Anastasia a meat Chidori through the chest. I mean, he couldn't even see it coming. There was no way you were predicting it. So then I forgot what happened to FF, but out of commission. Yeah, so Anastasia and FF have this very emotional scene, and I'm knowing one of them is definitely gonna die, I feel like, but I just don't know who, because I mean, we're just looking at FF's bare face on the ground, and then Anastasia's bleeding out. FF just says, Anastasia, I'm not going to merge with your body. You just stay here, protect Jolyne. I'm going to be the one to die because I felt emotion. I felt what I wanted to feel in life that I never thought I could feel. So this is all you now. And while this is happening, Pucci gets bit by Baby Dio and just disappears into thin air. I don't know where he went. He was gone. He was literally gone. He just teleported out. He said, I'll show up for part 3. I'm out. You know, my time here is done. And you know what? It worked out. And that's the thing with JoJo. If that shit happened in any other show, it just does. It's weird. Like, it doesn't, but the way JoJo's carries itself, it just works every single time. Like, they just have random shit happen. You're like, okay, that's fine. It's JoJo's. We get back to the prison. Jolyne is behind bars. And then the security guard. And see, I was talking about the Hermes fight at the beginning, but this Mew Mew shit, honestly, the psychological part of it really, like, made it into one of the top fights in the series, I personally feel like, because the whole behind bars stand where she could now only remember 3 things, and she was just repeating herself, and she doesn't even know what's going on, but she writes on herself to remember, and then she eventually ingrains it into herself with her stand, finds Emporio. They both suffered from the same thing. When Mew Mew confronted Jolyne for the first time, Emporio happened to be there, so they both can only remember 3 things, and then they have this great fight. And then when they get to the end where the prison guards actually do their job for once, in the whole entire in the whole entire part 6, Mew Mew gathers all the prison, every single prison guard at the goddamn camp, and there's about 500 lined up ready to gun down Jolyne, and then she has 3 bullets in her hand. This was one of the coolest things, man. She has 3 bullets in her hand because she knows after defeating Mew Mew, like, Mew Mew still had her stand on the guards, or I don't know if she did it intentionally. I don't even remember. But Jolyne drops the 3 bullets, so everyone's focus is on that. They could only remember 3 things. They turn invisible, hightail it out of there like nothing happened. And then after that, we basically find that Pucci has this new power because of the mergification of him and Dio. And now it's no longer looking for heaven. We're made in heaven at this point, you know, because everyone knows the name of the sand. So yeah, that's what we're getting in the next part. I'm very excited for it. I think this part of this season did a lot well. And I don't like the fact how Netflix is releasing it in 3 parts. I wish it was released in 1, because watching this all the way through in a binge type of thing, I'll probably finish it in a day. Realistically, it is just really good, really bingeable. There's a lot going on visually, and I think the cast of characters, comparing it to the other parts, up there. You know, Emporio, he needs to step the fuck up. Maybe turn that baseball cap backwards or some shit. I don't know, sideways. You know, we can get gangsta in this shit. You know what I'm saying? We can turn up a little bit, but Emporio's got to turn up. Because I don't know what he does. I don't know his significance. If it was explained at the beginning of the season, I wouldn't even remember. You know why? Because it's released in 3 parts, and that shit was a year ago. I don't know if there's any explanation for Emporio yet or what he does. I feel like he can do something more so of use. You know, he's definitely been helping. I guess he's like a support character. If I had any problems with this part of the season, I mean, I feel like there's too much time to do dialogue without like any repercussions. Like, again, where are the guards? We're in a prison. You know, I feel like the prison setting should really emphasize the fact that they really need to move a more sneaky type of level. Like, I know she was boxing with the whole ass prison guard, but I don't know. I feel like they have too much freedom. And I think that the Emporio thing is kind of annoying to me. And there were little things here and there. But I mean, all in all, it's fun. It's fun. It's JoJo's. I love this shit. I really do love it. If I were to give it a rating on a scale of 10, I would give it like an 8.5. I think it's really good. It's really enjoyable. For this part 2, I'm going to do a full breakdown of this part 6 when the last part comes out. But I just wanted to make a little video on it. You know, I just wanted to make a little video to give my thoughts on this part specifically. And yeah, with that being said, stay tuned for more videos to come. Appreciate you for watching. And yeah, on to the next one.